Okay, everybody, let's talk about Golang and how to make a simple JSON API today. First, you need Golang or Go, the programming language. This is the website, go.dev. You click download, choose your system, and then install it. Once you got it installed, if you go to any command prompt or terminal, you should be able to type go space version, and it will let you know what version is installed. In my case, I'm using 1.22.5. Uh, One of our members just installed it and it's 1.23. That's fine as well. Anyway, make sure you got Go installed. Once we got that, I make a directory here called intro to Golang, and inside that I just created the directory of mkdir space json-api. This is the command to create a directory. Should work on any system. Mkdir and the name of the directory. If you're welcome to use your graphical user interface like Finder on Mac or Windows Explorer or whatever you use on Linux. Nautilus, I guess, on GNOME. Anyway, I got the JSON API directory. I'm going to use open that in my favorite text editor. For this, today I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, which is freely available for everybody. Okay, so see here. This is it. Let's see if I can open more specifically JSON API. I just open it more. Okay, and for the purpose of using Go, there's an extension that you can install. If you click Extensions tab, look for Go. You want to find the Go extension for Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you're using. You should have a similar thing. I think if you use JetBrains, they have the Goland program IDE. Anyway, I have this installed. You click install. It should give you a lot of new cool stuff about auto completion and code documentation and so on. Very powerful. Anyway, here I am in JSON API. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it main.go. The extension for Go is Go. Okay. And then here, when you have a Go file, you have to declare at the top of the file the package this belongs to. Let's call it package main. And then that's the main function that will be the starting point of the program. So to make a function in Go, just type the func keyword, and then let's call it main, and then parentheses, and then curly braces. By the way, the curly brace has to be in the same line as the name of the function. Otherwise, it'll give a compiler error. And then we can type whatever here between the curly braces. Let's, for the sake of simplicity now, just print a message to the screen to see if it's compiling and working. To do that, we need to import the module fmt. So fmt dot println parentheses, double quotes, hello. And by the way, you notice this squiggly line? That's from the extension that's telling me this is undefined. It doesn't know what fmt is. So we have to import it at the top with the import statement. Import space, double quotes, fmt. That's the name of the module that provides this method or function called println. By the way, if you notice, when you have Go modules imported and the function names always start with a capital letter, because that's the way Go uses to be able to make the function available outside of the module. So you have to have the capital P there. So the case matters. Anyway, I saved that. And another thing about if you don't know about Go, you might be new to the language. It's very strict about many things, and it tries to be like as simple as possible. So there's only one way to do the thing. For example, there's only one way to loop, only one if. There's no if or unless like other languages like Ruby. And also the spacing that Go uses for indentation, I don't know if you can see it here. It's kind of the invisible character of Visual Studio Code is a tab character. Okay, so Go uses tab characters for indentation, not space. I use the extension, so every time I save it, it formats for me. the code. So I think if I do weird stuff like this and press save, the extension already removes that, all that extra stuff. So it's very opinionated language, like in the sense that it's very strict. It doesn't give you a lot of flexibility to do stuff. It's just only one way, only always use tab for indentation. Anyway, I hope everybody got Golang installed by now. If you don't have it installed, let me know there. Anyway, okay, how do we run this program? I'm gonna open a terminal here for convenience. And you can choose whatever on Visual Studio Code. Let's choose command prompt for the sake of simplicity. And I'll trash the other one. So basically, you're gonna say just go. And there are different ways to run this program. The simplest way you can do it is go run, and then main.co, the name of the file. What this does is it's gonna build, compile this, and in some place, temporary place, and then we'll execute that program, that binary file, executable, and then after it's complete, it deletes that file. So because of that, you don't even notice there's anything in the current directory. It probably throws it somewhere in the temporary directory for the operating system. And you can see it says hello. Now, another way you can do this manually, like you can go build main.go, and that should generate the executable and in the current directory with the same name as the file. See main.exe because I'm on Windows, and I can execute with /main.exe, and it says hello anyway. So if you wanted to act like Python or any other language without you actually seeing the file being built, just use go run. Anyway, I'm going to delete the file. So every time you change the code, you have to run or build again, right? Because it's a compiled language. It's not interpreted. Anyway, so everybody's comfortable with that. Let's create an HTTP server. So to do that, we're gonna leverage the HTTP module. So we can just say, let me delete this line here, HTTP dot list. And you notice I'm using the extension. When I say dot, it tells us all the possible choices out of this module. So that's what's powerful about this extension. If you're coming from another language and you don't quite understand or learn, you want to learn all the methods that are available in Go without having to manually go to their documentation website and everything, reading tutorials, you can just figure it out by looking at these auto completion. So I want the function to listen and serve. And if I press enter, you can see it automatically imports for me at the top. That's because of the extension. Otherwise, I would have to do it manually, go up there and add .NET HTTP. I noticed it reformatted that. Before I had like this. And if I wanted a .NET HTTP, I would have to do like this, right? That's the same way. But because Go is like strict about every time you save, it formats a certain way, it will just combine them. So if you combine them, it will just do it like this. And notice I'm no longer using FMT, so that's why I removed when I saved before. So even if I remove it, it's gonna, I think if I save it, it's gonna reformat probably. Anyway, the listen and serve method here. Uh, how somebody asked, how do you write a comment? It's a // like any C-based language. Start up a server like this. Okay. If you're on Visual Studio Code, Control/, if you press Control/, it should comment and uncomment. Okay, this function here, if you hover over it, that's another feature from the extension. It gives you the documentation for the function. So if you read the first line, it tells you, okay, it's a function that accepts two arguments. The first is of type string, the second of type HTTP.handler. HTTP is the module, so inside the module, there's this type called handler. So the first is going to be the, basically we can give a port to be very brief with quotes, colon, any port like 8080. If you're using 8080 for something else right now, choose another number. And the second argument here is the handler. And if you don't pass it, I think it will be just nil. That's why we call no value. And it will just use the default one. You can see the handler is typically nil. You see, read this here, in which case default serve mux is used. So that's what it does. Anyway, that should start up the server. So if you do go run main.go, it should do that. And on Windows, it's asking me, do you want to allow public and private, whatever? I click allow. So it's kind of annoying every time I compile, it does that. I probably have to change my settings to make it automatically accept. So annoying, but that's the way it is. I don't know how I would act on Mac if it would ask for permission as well. Anyway, it's running. Even though you don't see anything, it's actually running. And to validate that, let's go to the browser here. Let's see this one. For the person who just got here, you got to install. Let me see. Some people just got here. So let's take a moment to let them know where to install Go. For those who just got here, I paste the link again. That's where you should install Go. So make sure to go to this page to install the Go programming language if you haven't already done so. Anyway, as I was saying, localhost or 127.0.0.1 colon 8080. And you can see 404 page not found. That means it's actually running the server, just doesn't have that specific endpoint set up. So you say hello, and there's nothing there, but it's working. All right, going back to the code. Let me see this one. For those who just got here, we just created a directory. We created the file main.go, and this is the source code. By the way, I'm using Visual Studio Code with the extension Go for Visual Studio Code. If you click the extension tab and look for Go, install that. And then going back, this is the file. I can run it in a terminal with go run main.go. And to kill the service, Control C, okay? Control C to exit. Obviously, there's nothing going on here, so let's make something more interesting. How do we add an endpoint? Like say get/hello and send some message back to the client. Well, we're gonna see we got it called the handle func. Okay, so HP dot handle func like this. And the argument is gonna be the endpoint. So if you put /hello, it will match. If anybody tries to go to /hello, localhost colon 8080/hello, no matter the HP verb, it could be get, post, put, delete, or whatever, it will just hit this function that's passed as the second argument. So the second argument to this function here is a function itself. So you can, if you want to pass a function as an argument, just call the func like this, and then you just pass the arguments there. But what are the arguments? Well, you can read the docs, like I was comma here. So it's a function that has the type response writer and a pointer to the request. Okay, so let's do that here. So you just say func. It's pretty much always like this. Usually they call it W, but you can call it whatever. And in Go, if you want to specify the type of the variable, you have to add a space and then the type. And the type here is HTTP module dot response writer. And then the second argument or parameter to the function is the request, R. We call it R. And it's a pointer, so you have to have a star. Yes, there are pointers in Go, just like C and C++. Don't be afraid, though. It's going to be okay. And then the type is HTTP.request. Okay? And it's a pointer, so don't forget the asterisk. And I think the request, yeah, okay. We got that right. And then you can pass the definition between the open and curly and closing curly brace. Somebody asked, does Go support hot reloading so we don't have Control C all the time? Yes, there is a tool for that. You can look it up, just make a search, how to restart the server when you change the code in Golang. It will tell you there's a tool for that. I used that before. I can't recall the name right now, but I just do a quick search and you can find it. It will pretty much just watch your files and just recompile and rerun it. Yeah, like nodemon in JavaScript world. Anyway, we got that down. Now, what do we do? How do we send a response back? Let's make it easy. Well, we got to use this parameter, the W, to write the response. But it's a little bit harder than other frameworks in JavaScript, like simpler. We have to do a little bit more. So one way you can write it back a response is if you call on the w dot, and you can see there's some methods out of that thing, and we can say write. This function could do it, but it receives an array, not an array, sorry. If you're new to Golang, there are several data structure types, and one of them, you can see the square bracket. Typically, you think of arrays, right? But in Golang, when you see the square bracket and there's no number between the square brackets, it's called a slice. And in Golang, arrays have fixed size, but the slice is what has dynamic size. So if you need something that changes over time, you want to choose a slice. So it expects as an argument a slice of byte. Now, if you put a string like this, hello world, it's not really gonna work. Okay, cannot use hello world because that's not a slice of byte. Okay, so if you try to go around that, let's see if we get a compile error or not. Oh, will I catch it? Oh, I didn't save it. Sorry. Save the file first. Make sure to save the file first, and then its catch cannot use hello, just like it did in the extension here. You need a slice of byte. Yeah. So you have to convert this to a byte, slice of byte. So the way you can do it, just put square brackets byte like this, and place the string with parentheses. And that way it should work. Somebody asked, type hinting is mandatory in Go? Depends. It can infer the types, but for the most part, you have to specify it, just like we did here. Okay? Sometimes you can infer, but most of the time you gotta say. Anyway, I put that there, so it converts the string literal to a byte, a slice of bytes. And if I run that, I should be able to. I click allow on Windows. It's very annoying, but it's just the way it is. Somebody knows how to fix that? Let me know, because I have to look it up. I think somewhere in the firewall settings. Okay, let me look at Firefox. If I go hello here, see hello world is back to me. Now, one detail about the handle func is it doesn't matter if it's GET request, POST request, and that kind of sucks. Let me see if I can show you here what I'm talking about. Let me close all tabs. I have this program to make HTTP requests called Postman that I can simulate a post request for you. Just got too many things open. But let me know if you didn't get Go installed yet, or if you cannot, if you have any problems, okay? While I'm doing this, clear all. Okay. Let me show you Postman. This is a very nice tool. If you don't have it, I suggest you install it to make click plus. So I'm gonna change the verb to post because the browser, when you say get, right, HTTP colon localhost 8080, that's what the browser does when you go to the address bar, press enter. But to simulate a post, right, method post, I can choose that there, and you can see send. It's still, I have to say hello here. Sorry. Uh, you see, for get it works, for post it works. So every single method is matching. So that sucks. That's what you want. So let's change that behavior. So typically before version 122 of Go, you couldn't do this, but now you can do get there. Otherwise, you would have to go to the R dot, I think, a method. You gotta do a check that value to see if it's get or post or whatever manually, and then figure out what to do. But now you don't have to do that. You can just put get there. Or you could have used Gorilla Mux. It's another way. It's a package a module that you can download that make it easier than this. Anyway, you can put get there so it only matches slash hello with the get method. And control C, go run main.go again. Allow. And let's check it out. Oops, I didn't show you the code, did I? Sorry about that. So what I I don't know if I showed you, I'll share my screen. What I did was add a get here, space before slash hello on line 8. And it works now in Go 122 and up. If you have an older version of Go, it might not work. So you would have to go and r dot method check that value, if it's post, get, or whatever, and send a response accordingly. Anyway, that's what I meant. Going back to let me see postman again. Now if I try post slash hello method not allowed, so it automatically gives me an error. So I don't have that anymore. So if I do get, now that works, says hello world. Okay, great. Now let's talk JSON. Make it more exciting. Going back to the code. This is just plain text. What about JSON? Well, when we have a JSON API, we have to first set the header content type to application/JSON. So how do we set the header? Well, before we write, you can say W, that's the thing here for the response writer. And by the way, if you hover over this, you can see response writer is an interface. So Go is not object oriented in the sense there's no classes. So the terminology you got to watch out. Like I would instinctively I would say this is an object. You know what I mean? But it's a response writer type, which is an interface. So just trying to be careful of my words. And the request here is a structure. Basically it's a type request, but that in turn is defined as a structure, which is like C language, right? Very bare C language. Anyway, use the W dot header, okay, and call it as a function like this. And you should be able to do a dot set with the content type as string literal as the first, and the second as the value application/JSON. So basically, this would set the HTTP header content type with the value application/JSON. Again, once again, you notice Go, usually the first letter of the functions is capitalized. And the reason for that is usually in the modules. If you have lowercase, you cannot access the function from outside the module. So if somebody is using the module from the outside, you have to make the function first letter capitalized. Otherwise, you don't access it. Maybe if you come from Microsoft, C# world, Pascal case, you're used to this kind of thing. Otherwise, people might think it's strange. And that's how you set a header. Now, let's send some JSON here. Basically, you can just change that to a JSON thing, like a curly brace, right? Let's say, now if you want to type double quotes there, you can escape it with backslash double quotes. Let's say that's the message property, and then backslash quotes, and then colon, right? And then we have the value backslash quotes, which will be the message hello world, and then backslash quotes, and finish off with the curly brace there, okay? You can add space if you find it hard to read. So basically, this would be the string in a JSON format. And because the content type, the browser will understand this as you're sending back JSON. Somebody asked you to set up the header for each and every route, or is there a common place we can set it? Yeah, so I think you can add a middleware to always set it. There's a catch-all thing that you can set, so it will always set it. But otherwise, maybe you can make your helper function for your handler functions. Basically, a handler function that you can always set something before that in turn will call the function that's passed in. You gotta look at the docs, or maybe look into Gorilla Mux. Like this is the very bare way of making the API. And if you want a fancier way, maybe you might like better using Gorilla Mux. Let me try to show you here. Gorilla Mux. This is what many people like using. It's very similar. It just adds a new functionality on top. This is Gorilla Mux. I'll send you the link. It's basically the same. You can see handle func. It just adds stuff like, I think, dot methods. You can say dot methods like this. See that? handle func, and then you can see dot methods post, which is not available on the bearer one. And let me see if middleware. Yeah, there's middleware here. And I think even the default one has middleware. I've used, let's see if we have middleware here. By the way, while we're at this question, let me show you how you can reference documentation. So like I'm using the HTTP module, right? So how do you find documentation for Go? Well, it's in the Go website, or you can just look it up, like HTTP net/HTTP. And you should go to this website, pkg.go.dev. This is where they have the modules. It's like a registry thing, or it's more like a proxy. Uh, Basically, this is the docs. I'll send you this to you. And you can see, read about it. And here's the index. If you want to find something like handle func is this one. See this one, click there, and it tells you what it is. Example. Okay, you can handle func like this. And in the example here, they define the function in a variable outside. We can do that as well. And other stuff. Let me see if they have middleware. I don't find anything about middleware here. So probably not as fancy as Gorilla Mux. But there's a catch-all. Let me see. If you do slash as the endpoint, that's the catch-all that any route will match, I think. If you do here, going back to the code, HP handle func, let me see. If I do slash, I think that's the catch-all. It's not, it got confused me in the beginning as well. You might think that's gonna match slash, but it actually matches every single route, I think. Let me try to set something there to see if it works for you. And then we will move on, just out of curiosity. Okay, I got my function there. But notice I didn't type any semicolon, right? Usually C-based languages need a semicolon at the end of every statement. And what's funny about Go is it actually needs a semicolon, but you as the programmer don't have to type it because the compiler will actually add it for you. So that's something curious about Go. Anyway, here I just want to set a header, and I'll just do X, whatever, something here, just to test it out, see if it's doing anything. If it doesn't do, we just move on. Anyway, so usually it would match all. Let's see. So if I restart my server, allow, and I want to observe that. I'm going to use Postman, but you can use the browser as well. It doesn't matter. Let me use Postman. Maybe I'll send you the link to Postman since I'm using so much. Or it could be any REST client, even curl, if you like using curl. By the way, that's the link to Postman. And if you open Postman, by the way, you don't have to register or anything. Just click skip and go to the main page once you open the program. Anyway, somebody said insomnia is better. I assume that's like Postman, so you can use that as well. I don't care. Anyway, I wanted to check post hello. I want to check the response headers here. You can see X whatever is there. See that? So it's actually working as a middleware. So if I go to whatever, this one doesn't, we don't have it, right? But if you go to post hello, we got X whatever there and this here. All right. And I noticed it might have wiped. I don't know if it wiped the other one because I don't see the content type. I don't know why. What's the body here? It's not sending anything. Oh, I put get, right? That's why. There you go. Yeah, so it seems like not really middleware. It's a more of if it doesn't match that, I guess it matches that catch all. So it's more like a catch all if you wanna if you don't match any of the routes you specified, it would just go to the slash. It's not really middleware. So I would look into Gorilla Mux for a better middleware solution. Yeah, let's go to the code. Somebody asked, what's the code like? So this is the code. Better just clarify, this is not really middleware. It's more like a catch-all route if nothing else matches. For the middleware thing, maybe look into Gorilla Mux. It's a better way. Or build your own thing to match. I don't know. Be very, very complicated. Anyway, let's go on. That's enough. We wrote JSON manually, but that's not what we usually do. That usually comes from a database. So let's take a step further. How would we like serialize, deserialize within Go? Let me just leave a comment here. This is a catch all route if no other matches. So here, I want to take this out and kind of make it like our own, like, if you object-oriented programming, our own object, right? Or hash structure or dictionary in Python. How do we do that? Well, in Go, you can declare types and you can use structures, struct. So if you have like a struct, like this is how you do it. But then if you want to name this type, you got to use the type keyword to like, let's name it. Uh, let's say we're doing a bookstore and I want to keep track of send back books. I want to make a type for book, and that type is actually a struct. And this is one of the primitive, the built-in stuff. So a book has like a title, right? So we can say title here, like this, space, and that's a string. That's the type, okay? So we gotta define a struct, the curly braces, the name of the property, and the type follows. You can add more stuff. Maybe you want to give an ID, right? Usually there's an ID from the database. And this ID here, now in Go, there's different data types for a number, not like JavaScript, where it's just one. So there's int, there's float. So let's make this an int to make it simple. And notice I put the first letter capitalized because that's what we usually do in Go for things like that. Like I said before, the case matters usually for something outside the module to access it. And you might be asking later, well, okay, the JSON is usually lowercase. How do we change that? I'm going to let you know in a while, in a little bit. But anyway, we make the type there, struct, and then you can go here. Let's, how to declare a variable. Where one way is var, space, give it a name. Let's call it book. Okay, and then the type is going to be book. And then if you wanna, you can put equal sign right away, or you can do it later with book equals. It doesn't matter. Okay, like if you do it right away, you would have to pass like a struct here. Let's initialize it with a kind of a lonely struct. You can say like, let's say it's like this. ID would be one, title, book title one, like that. So basically, the right-hand side, you gotta have something. If you want to specify like a structure literal, you have to say the type here, followed by the curly brace, and then the values in order as they are typed here. If you don't want to type in order, I think you can do like this and like this, okay? So typically, maybe you want to do it, break it into multiple lines. And it's going to complain here because you don't have a comma. So if you have a multiple lines in Go, it strictly wants you to type a comma. And there you go. It looks like a lot of like a dictionary in Python or object in JavaScript, right? Yeah, just a little details. You got to put the name here and the comma there. And then here it's complaining because I'm not using it. So in Go, if you don't use a variable, it's a compile error. So if I try to run that, so sorry, let me save first. Save first. And I try to run it, it's gonna complain that I didn't use it. Okay, so I gotta use it somehow. Let's go here. I gotta use that here, right? But how do I do it? Because this is not string, right? How do I make that a string? So that's why we gotta use the JSON module. So we got JSON here, and we got some methods. Okay, so we got Marshall we got unmarshal. Let me see what's unmarshal. The unmarshal parses JSON encoded data and stores result in a value, whatever. What's marshal? Let's see marshal. Marshal returns a JSON encoding of V. And you can see here V is of any type, or usually called interface, empty interface. So that's the one we want to use. Like this, it's like deserialized, serialized methods in other languages. So you want to call that and you pass the book thing, and they should give you back the stuff so you can pass it here. Let's see what happens. Let's just remove this here and put it inside. So it's gonna complain, I think. So too many arguments, whatever. Let's see. Let's another way to declare a variable in Go is with the colon equals. So let's call it encoded book colon equals. So colon equals here is another way to define a variable inside a function instead of you manually typing var and then the name and then the type. Okay. And this is complaining because this Marshall function, if you notice the signature for the function, it's you can see there's the v any as the argument, but the return type is actually not one thing but two. So it's a tuple. So we have a slice of bytes and an error. So that's very common in Go. They don't have like proper exception, that kind of mechanism. It's all done through these, usually the functions would return two things. One is the value, and the second is if there's an error. So this would actually have to return two things. The second one would be the error, like that. And you have to check if the error is not nil, meaning if there is an error, right? This is how you do if statements, by the way, no need for parentheses. In that case, you can log fatal, uh, couldn't marshal the book or whatever. Oops. And then you can pass the error here like that. And I forgot my curly brace that you need. And it's complaining log doesn't exist, so you got to import at the top. If I save it, it's going to import there. And finally, it's complaining that I'm not using that. So let's try using that here. And if you remember, write requires a slice of byte, so that's correct, right? So if we run it again, we should finally be able to see it. And by the way, I don't want to say hello. Let's say books slash one. How about that? And I'll save that and rerun it. I changed the endpoint to be slash book slash one. Let's go here. Where's the browser? Share. Oops, not that one. Sorry. Where's my browser? Here. Going back here, localhost 8080, and we're gonna say book slash one. If I inspect of the dev tools, I press F12, network tab. I'm using Firefox, but Chrome should be the same, network tab. I can refresh and monitor it if you click all for the filters. You should see this one. And the response, if you click raw, is just raw text in, right? With the JSON format. And notice the capitalized ID and title. And if I look at the headers for the response, a request, let's see, response, I see content type application JSON. And because of that, the browser is smart enough to create this live view of the JSON. Let me zoom in for you. And it's exactly what we had there, right? Now I might be asking, hey, I want this to be lowercase. Can we do that? Yes, we can. Let me show you. So it's kind of funny how we do it in Go. we gotta add a tag to the struct property. It's kind of weird, but just the way it is. So you would go to the struct that defines the type that you're serializing, deserializing, and you add a third thing here, a backtick. Okay, it's called a tag. Okay, you can tag this property, and you can pass JSON colon and ID. So you have to type JSON colon and double quotes and the name of how you want this to be output as it's converted to a string in JSON format. Don't forget to close the double quotes. And it's a backtick, by the way. So this would tag this property with that. And why is that? Why does it does that? Who is doing this stuff of changing to lowercase? We got to do the same here, like this. Okay. Backtick JSON colon double quotes title. That's how we want it to show. And then quotes and close that. Now, who is doing all this stuff? Well, it's the package or module encoding JSON. This one here. If you click here to see the docs, we will be able to see it. And in the docs, it tells us about that. I want to show you so you don't just take it for granted. So let's go to the docs here. We'll go jump to JSON. Where is it? Encoding slash JSON, I think. This one. I'll send you the link. Somebody asked, damn, this is too complicated. I mean, Go was supposed to be simple, right? Anyway, let's look at Marshall here. That's what we use, right? So if you read the docs for Marshall and look for tag, something like that. Where is it? Okay, here. The encoding of each struct field can be customized, storing the JSON key in the struct fields tag. See that? So this is what's doing that stuff. So when you call the Marshall function, it will look to see, does this property from the struct have a tag? If that is the case, I'll use that to produce my property name. Okay, so that's where it's coming from. I'll send you the link direct. Anyway, going back to the stuff there, after adding those tags, let me make sure I'm in the right JSON API. We got the tags here, so we can change this from uppercase to lowercase. Save that, run the server again, and allow, share the browser, go to localhost 8080 /book/1 again, and now it's lowercase. Okay. And that's because the JSON module Marshall function, as it goes through the structure, it will look, there's a tag. Therefore, I'll use that name for the property instead of the original one. All right. Somebody validated as well. Got it working. Yeah, so that's the way of Go. Now, let me teach you a way if you're tired of writing it out. You want to be just like Python or JavaScript, where you can just spit it out without declaring the structure. We can do that with what's called an empty interface, what they call any these days on Go. So we would go here. If you don't want to use this thing of the empty stuff, you can go, let me show you, empty interface like this. If you want to make like a map or object or hash kind of thing, in Go they call it a map. It will be like this, a map that takes a string property and it produces something. Now that's something, if you put interface like this with the curly braces empty, this is called an empty interface, which is basically any. You can also type any there. I think it works. So think of that as the any type. It's whatever. If I do that, that's the literal thing. So in this case, I can make, think like this. Let me try if it works. Let's see if it's going to work. And then put that in a variable book2 colon equals and like this. undefined. Oh, I have to put like this, right? Because it's a string. And yeah. And let's try using book to here and see if that works. Let's try. Book declare not used. You see go kind of, I gotta comment this out because it's not used. And using this way, I don't have to declare a struct, right? Let me share the browser. It worked the same way. You can see book title 2 appears, right? Obviously, I could have named my fields lowercase. So I changed this here to ID lowercase, title lowercase, save it, restart, and go back to the browser. And it's working with lowercase. Okay, so this is a different way, less structured. If you use it's called the empty interface. Basically, this is a map, which is like a dictionary in Python or object in JavaScript, Ruby hash. Uh, so the brackets is telling you that this property value has to be a string and that the value of those properties, like this right-hand side of the colon, is whatever, empty interface. If you strictly put int here, they could only be ints, right? To give me an error. This has to be an int. Otherwise, if I want any value here, I put either any, I think that works, or the so-called empty interface, like that. So if you like it this way, do it. Otherwise, it's usually structured like this with the type, whatever struct, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of Go so far if you're new to the language. You like it, you don't like it, sucks. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's how you pretty much go about doing the API. And obviously, this is not gonna, it's gonna come from a database, so you'd have to look up how to use the driver for Go. Just look up in the docs, they have a database driver module, and they will tell you how to use. Just import the driver and connect to the database with a string. Let me see if I can show you an example through the browser, since we're out of time. Golang connect like MySQL. Let's see this one, this one. This is the official one. So it's using MySQL. So they're using this Go MySQL driver. So you import like this. I'll send you the link if you like MySQL. But I use Postgres usually, so I would have to use another module. Basically like this. They call a config, pass the parameters, and then they open the connection, and eventually get this DB object. I think you can query. You scroll down. Let's see, DB dot query, I think. Yeah, DB dot query, and then you put the query and do all this stuff. Once you get, this is taking like an array or slice of album. I always say array, but in Go, you gotta say slice if you don't see a number between the square brackets. Uh, and then they go over with a loop like that with the for. Actually, it's called for here, but this is actually a while loop. In Go, there's no while loop. They use the keyword for all kinds of loops. So if you omit like usually the for loop traditionally has initializer, condition, increment, decrement. So if you omit the initializer and decrement, increment, it only has a condition, that becomes a while, so you can omit, and it becomes for whatever condition here. While that's true, do this. And they're doing the scan. Basically, they're taking the values from the database and storing in this object of album here that they remember is a struct. See the struct there? And that's how we would do it. Somebody asked, do we have an ORM for querying stuff in Go? Probably they have. Golang ORM. You can look it up and try it for yourself. But I don't know. People in Go, they claim to want to be as simple as possible, so they don't need to use whatever external things. So I don't know. Probably there's a good one, I think. There might be good ones there to try. If you have a particular one that you found, let us know. Uh, anyway, uh, try it out later. And going back to the code just to finish it off, that's how we pretty much go about doing that. You can, obviously you don't have to write the functions here and all in one file, right? First of all, you don't have to write the function here. You can isolate that in a different thing. You can call like func handle single book like that. And if you want to give a name to the functions after the func keyword, and you can put it here, handle single book, and you should be able to use it from there. So in Go, when you declare things here on the top level, it's called the package level. And that's it's kind of like global in other language, global scope. But be careful if you're using this defining on the package level with the lowercase and you want to make this function available to people outside the module, you have to make it upper with the handle H capitalized. So there's that. So be careful. If you see it not working, that's why. And yeah, you can go on. You would create many handle functions like that for every single endpoint. And obviously, you don't have to do it in this single place. You could call a function to do that for you, right? You can set up endpoints, whatever. And that function, you could put in another file, right? Setup.go. And as long as you put that in the same package, main, for example, if it's in the same package here, this function that you define here, sorry, func setup, it will be available on this other file. You can just call setup. As long as when Go goes through it, it sees that setup here is declared in the package level, so it's going to go in a main package. So whoever's using is from the main package here, you're inside main package. If you call the lowercase, it should work. However, if you have a different package name and you're trying to reference the function from another package, you have to make the function capitalized so that the other package can use it. And then from the other package, you would call the as capitalized. Okay, so let me try to just finish off here. So setup, there'll be HP, handle func. Let's just put a hello here again. Say hello, and then we can put func, say hello. And I always forget the signature. Was it a W and the R? And you have to put the types, and it's a pointer here. WHP response writer. And the second one is pointer to HP. Oops, HP request. And then let's say, let's just send a message. Another way of sending the write is fmt.print. There's another way here. Let me show you. Print F. This is yet another way to send back a response. Hello world. And that requires FMT. Sorry, it's lowercase. Report FMT, nat HP. I think it's gonna, and this one, what did I do wrong here? Hello. String value. That should be okay. I put F. Oh, sorry, F print. You gotta have F print. That's if you don't like this, just put write with the byte, whatever, right? If you don't like that, same thing. If you don't like that, I'm just showing you a different way of doing things. So that's F print F with the W there. And because this is here, it goes there. And because setup is defined as the same main module, I can call it from here like that. And it should call that function define the slash hello. So let's see if I don't have any error. Oh no, undefined. Why? Why do I have an error? Because when I say go run, I only pass main.go and not setup.go. So I have to pass all the files that I'm using for the project. So you have to add setup.go there. That way it knows about it. Okay, now it's working. Let's go back and I'll look on my browser again. I'll go to /hello. I expect that to work. There you go. Okay. And that's it. You figure out your own organization structure, read about how people like organize things and Go. But this is mostly have to do with the package level. You got to understand there's package level scope. And as long as they're in the same package, you can access just by calling it. And it doesn't have to be in the same file. And like I said, if you have a different module referencing some function in another module, make sure to the function name, the first letter is capitalized. Otherwise, it will not be able to access it. Okay, I think I conclude this lecture with that.